These heavy downpours. Could see some of them developing across southeast England. Heaviest ones likely further west, but then come the afternoon, if skies brighten, we may well spark further thunderstorms over parts of the Midlands. Far southwest of England should get a little bit brighter, whereas it stays pretty wet in Northern Ireland. Quite warm and quite humid. With some sunshine, we could again get temperatures into the mid-20s across parts of eastern England. Many places, they're a little bit cooler than that because of the heavy downpours and because of more cloud. Continued risk of thunderstorms during the course of tomorrow evening. Friday looks a little drier to begin with, but still some showers for Northern Ireland and parts of Wales. The threat of more thunderstorms then coming up from the south later on Friday. There's another Met Office yellow warning for that across East Anglia and the southeast. Friday, probably the warmest of this week. We may get to 30 Celsius in the east.
A positive outlook through the night will power through to a bright day ahead. Boxed Home Battery Storage, sponsors of weather on GB News.
We're kick-starting summer with your chance to win our biggest cash prize to date, as there's an incredible £54,321 in tax-free cash to be won. What would you spend it on? A brand new car, the holiday of a lifetime, or just sit back, relax and remove some of those day-to-day financial stresses? For a chance to win £54,321 cash, text cash to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message, or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB14 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 1st of August. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk then?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up? About 10.
So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m. only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Exciting news. Every Friday, my Patrick Christys Tonight Show is going to have a twist to it. We're welcoming some special guests. You. That's right, on Fridays I'm going to be doing my show in front of a live studio audience, because this show is about you and what you have to say. It's going to be the same big debates, same big topics, same big opinions, but every Friday night at 9 p.m. you are invited to come on down to Patrick Christys Tonight to be a part of the action. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, isn't it?
Because
the failure is...
You're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff.
Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood.
So join me on Jubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more.
Whether it's breaking royal news,
please bring us up to date.
Or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons.
Very, very curious.
We bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
It's 9 p.m. I'm Patrick Christys Tonight. I have infiltrated a Channel migrant gang.
طقس ربي يبارك ها شو رايك وجمعة وراحات شوف ما شاء الله شوف الأجواء.
I have their phone numbers, their locations, the time that they'll launch the boats, and I've passed it on to British and French authorities.
The serious answer is to smash the gangs.
Tonight, we make a mockery of the Prime Minister's promise that he's doing everything he can to smash those gangs. Also,
extra £29 billion per year, £7 billion. With £52 billion, £20 billion, £39 billion over the next decade.
£300 billion in new spending, £140 billion of borrowing. Is today the day that Rachel Reeves broke Britain? And
who acceded to the English throne at the age of 9 on the death of his father Henry VIII in 1547?
Of Gibraltar were facing effectively a hard border.
First Chagos, now Gibraltar. Mastermind David Lammy hands Britain's borders over to the Spanish. Plus, Keir Starmer's top mate, the Attorney General, thinks that anyone, who wants to leave the ECHR is a far-right fascist. Labour decriminalise rough sleeping. And will there be a third night of anti-immigration protests in Northern Ireland? Lawlessness in Salford, Manchester, and this depraved flasher has been fined just £1.42 for each time he exposed himself to women. On my panel tonight is Director of Popular Conservatives, Mark Littlewood. We've got Senior Political Correspondent at the Daily Express, Christian Calgie, and broadcaster Nina Mishkov. Oh, what's all this about?
Do you believe in ghosts?
Do you know, Richard, I do. And I'll tell you why.
Have you seen ghosts?
Yes, and I've had some very odd experiences in the paranormal.
What?
Haven't we all? Well, look, hey, don't miss my late edition show as well, 11 p.m. till midnight. It's all the front pages, what's inside the book as well. It's the best paper show on the box. Get ready, Britain. Here we go. Reeves bankrupted Britain. Lammy gave it away to the Spanish. Next.
Patrick, thank you very much and good evening. The top stories. We are renewing Britain and ensuring working people are better off. That was the Chancellor's message as she delivered her spending review today, pledging a £190 billion boost to the day-to-day running of public services. Rachel Reeves announced funding increases for transport networks, defence capabilities and energy security, as well as ending the use of asylum hotels by 2029 through new funding to tackle the backlog. NHS funding will rise by 3% a year in real terms, and the Chancellor also extended the £3 bus fare cap to 2027. The Chancellor also announced a £39 billion house building boost and £7 billion for 14,000 prison placements. Government departmental budgets will also grow by 2.3% in real terms. Elsewhere, Downing Street says Sir Keir Starmer spoke to the Prime Minister of Spain this evening following today's historic agreement to secure the future of Gibraltar, saying Prime Minister Sanchez congratulated the Prime Minister on his leadership. Sir Keir also spoke to and congratulated Chief Minister of Gibraltar, Fabian Picardo. It all comes after the UK agreed to a fluid border between Gibraltar and Spain, clearing the way to finalise a post-Brexit deal on the territory with the EU. Those flying into Gibraltar from the UK will face one check, though, from Gibraltarian officials and another by the Spanish on behalf of the EU. President of the EU Commission, Ursula von der Leyen, welcomed the deal, calling it an historic agreement. Talks on rules governing the border of Spain and Gibraltar have been ongoing since Britain left the EU in 2020. Foreign Secretary David Lammy said the agreement was a breakthrough after years of uncertainty and that the UK's commitment to Gibraltar remains as solid as the rock itself.
Well, I'm delighted that today we have reached a historic solution that I believe is pragmatic and gives the people of Gibraltar the certainty they need for their sovereignty and their prosperity over the years ahead. This is a good arrangement that deals with the complexity of the current arrangements that mean that people have sometimes queued for hours and has harmed the certainty that business needs.
6 people have been arrested and 32 police officers injured following a second night of violent disorder in Ballymena in Northern Ireland. One of those arrested has been charged. There are reports that multiple cars and properties were set on fire as rioters threw petrol bombs, fireworks and masonry at police officers. Officers gathered early this evening to prevent a third night of violence. Extra police officers have been deployed to the area. The scenes last night came after similar violent disorder in the town on Monday night, which followed an earlier peaceful protest, which was organised in support of the family of a girl who was the victim of an alleged sexual assault. 2 14-year-old boys appeared in court on Monday charged with attempted rape. Those are the latest headlines. For now, it's back to Patrick.
For the very latest GB News direct to your smartphone, sign up to News Alerts by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/alerts.
Good evening. Britain is being run by incompetent fools, and we can't go on like this. Today, Chancellor Rachel Reeves set about bankrupting the UK.
Extra £29 billion per year for the day-to-day running of our health service. £7 billion to fund 14,000 new prison places. Affordable Homes programme, in which I am investing £39 billion over the next decade, with £52 billion for Scotland. £20 billion for Northern Ireland by the end of the spending review, and £23 billion for Wales. Defence spending will now rise to 2.6% of GDP by April 2027.
Hundreds of billions of pounds of new public spending, tens of billions of pounds of new borrowing. Let's break down this spending splurge. Defence, that includes the money we're giving Mauritius for the Chagos Islands. And whilst we're on that, Mauritius is using that money to give their own citizens a tax break and pay off their national debt. Immigration and asylum. She claims they'll stop paying for asylum hotels by the end of this parliament. She won't say where she's going to put all of these illegal immigrants. But today, Labour announced they're decriminalising rough sleeping. So I think we're going to see rather a lot more of this, won't we? Keir Starmer's top mate, the Attorney General, thinks that anyone, who wants to leave the ECHR is a far-right fascist. All of that and much more. An admittance that Red Ed Miliband's fanatical pursuit of wind and solar is pants, won't work, and would plunge Britain into blackouts. Business, she made some announcements on. How dare she say she's supporting businesses? 276,000 fewer people are in employment in the last 7 months. 190,000 lost their jobs in May alone. Schools, 2.3 billion quid she's given to fix schools. Labour's ruined them. They taxed private school parents. They said it would raise £1.5 billion quid. It looks set to cost them £650 million quid a year. The NHS, £29 billion more money. Well, today's Daily Mail front page revealed that this won't actually help them, or indeed the Times, won't actually help them hit NHS targets. And how are we paying for this? Your taxes are going up.
If the forecasts remain exactly as they were in the spring statement, then we won't need further tax increases. But we never have a world in which nothing changes. Chancellor's going to have to hope they change in the right direction. I think they're more likely to change in the wrong direction.
OK, let's bring up the national debt clock, shall we? So, the UK national debt grows at the rate of £5,170 per second. I don't even know how to say that number on your screen right now. I don't know what that is, OK? But it's large, isn't it? Rather large and rising. Let's get off that. It's going to be depression. But while Rachel Reeves was bankrupting Britain, David Lammy was handing it over to the Spanish. So the Foreign Secretary, yes, this guy,
who acceded to the English throne at the age of 9 on the death of his father Henry VIII in 1547.
Henry VII.
Edward VI.
He took a flight in the dead of night to Gibraltar, where he signed off on a deal that will give the Spanish and EU officials control of the border. So that means when a British person flies from here now, Britain, to British sovereign territory, you land and a Spaniard checks your passport. You know, it's bad, isn't it? Because he tried to bury this news by timing it to coincide with that spending review that I've just mentioned. And then David Lammy tried to claim that this deal needed to be done because Gibraltar's way of life was under threat. From who? Was Spain about to invade, were they, Mr Lammy? Were the Moroccans about to have a bang on Gibraltar? No, of course not. I mean, you can physically hear the cogs turning in this man's brain.
As a consequence of the paper-thin deal that was done by Boris Johnson, the people of Gibraltar were facing effectively a hard border. This is a border where 15,000 people are crossing every day. And that's why we had to roll our sleeves up and get this deal done.
Goodness gracious me. How much more of this government can Britain take? Let's get the thoughts of my panel tonight. Of course, we are joined by the Director of Public Conservatives, Mark Littlewood. We have the political supremo, Christian Cowgie of The Express, and Nina Mishkov, the legendary broadcaster. Mark, I'll start with you. I mean, it's difficult to know exactly where to start with, really, isn't it? I mean, it's completely betrayed Britain today, both economically and in terms of Gibraltar. Can I just say, just to be clear on the Gibraltar thing, Mark, so when you land in Gibraltar, right, Pedro checks your passport, does he?
That's the idea, yes. So rather than you previously going from, if you wanted to go from London to Gibraltar, that should be no different between you going from, say, London to Manchester. But now, Pedro or Juan, whoever the Spanish passport officer might be, will be there to check you, because they've got a kind of buy one, get one free deal. The idea is if you get into Gibraltar, from what I can make out of the agreement, you'll be allowed into the Schengen area. So this would be a bit like saying, if you make it to Dover, you're allowed into France. So at Dover railway station, we'll have French officials checking you. So the idea is, as Lammy has just explained in his own idiosyncratic fashion, that this will speed up what is a very busy border crossing. The problem's this: I don't know whether this government doesn't care about border control or doesn't understand it. You should be able to move from British sovereign territory to British sovereign territory without any foreign passport control. If you want the Schengen arrangement, then deal with Pedro at the Spanish passport office. That's fine. But how difficult would it be to have two, queues just to make sure people get in? Britain to Britain, whiz you through. If you want to go to Gibraltar for a while and then move on to Spain, France, Italy or anywhere else, you might need a Schengen visa. So this has raised many, many more questions than answers, but it's another area of border control that the Labour government has given up.
Well, first Chagos and now this, Christian. I mean, what is it about this deeply unpatriotic Labour government that doesn't understand how offensive it is for a British person to have Pedro's hands on his passport when he gets to British sovereign territory?
Look, Labour have proved time and time again they couldn't negotiate their way out of a paper bag, and I woke up this morning and I heard this news, and as I said, to paraphrase Ronald Reagan, the 8 most terrifying words in the English language are "I'm David Lammy and I'm here to negotiate," because that we're about to lose something very precious at that point. I'm willing for the next sort of 12 hours to reserve judgment on this, because we have not had, as you say, many answers at all, and we know that Labour's deals, whether they're with India or the EU or America, fall apart quicker than a British Leyland car. So look, let's wait for the details. You're right, I'm surprised that we couldn't have some sort of dual queue system. That would have been more integral, but I imagine David Lammy turned up and he had a piece of paper stuck under his nose and he signed his name to it.
But the problem for me is still this. We know it's not great, because if it was great, Nina, he wouldn't have flown over there in the dead of night, done it on the day that Rachel Reeves' spending announcement has done, and announced it just before PMQs. He's trying to bury this.
I don't think so at all. I think he's just managed to get it over the line. This has been discussed for years and failed, I think, last year.
Is that not just because Labour are signing everything that's always refused to sign?
No, absolutely not. I would just like to point something out to you. Do you believe in democracy?
I do believe in democracy.
Right, OK. Brexit referendum.
Yeah.
Gibraltar, 84...
They had a referendum on staying in the UK, Nina.
The Brexit referendum, 84% turnout, voted 95% to remain.
Yeah.
So the people of Gibraltar want this.
No, they voted to be part of the UK.
Hang on.
The UK voted out, and that's what matters.
But they are not part of the UK. They're British overseas territory.
Well, they're effectively
and
part of
this
the UK.
this jingoistic sovereignty thing is just childish. It really is. It absolutely is. There are more Spanish living in Gibraltar than UK nationals. There are
that's
more.
Another problem.
No, it's not, because that's part of the way that Britain and Spain have shared this piece of rock. This deal will also.
It's ours.
It's ours. We're
not sharing it.
There's no shared.
It's ours.
There's no shared sovereignty there. It's British.
It's ours. What makes the Falklands share the Falklands?
I don't understand why you are so hysterical about this.
I'm not hysterical. I'm just saying what you said was factually incorrect. There's no shared sovereignty over Gibraltar.
No, I didn't say there was shared sovereignty. But
you said we shared it with the Spanish. We are now.
The population. There are more Spanish than English.
There's lots of Australians in Earl's Court. It doesn't mean that Sydney runs London.
No, but if you go to Australia, you still have to have a visa if you're British, and that used to be ours as well, didn't it?
But it's not now. If the Gibraltars wish to leave the United Kingdom, fine. They don't. I also don't know what problem we're trying to solve here. You know what average incomes are in Gibraltar?
Yeah.
76 grand a year.
Yes,
on average.
There was no threat. This is what I don't get, right? David Lammy has created a threat to justify allowing...
You create up a legal threat being pushed by the enemy, by, i.e. the Spanish, who want Gibraltar. They are not neutral players in this. They're not concerned about the free flowing of goods.
Gibraltar.
No, that's the point. They want Gibraltar, and therefore they have an incentive... to get Juan into passport control.
You're going tonto over the fact that they haven't got it. That's the whole point.
Well, we're giving it away to inch by inch,
Can we just have an adult conversation about the Chagos Islands?
Well, not really right now, because it's not really on the agenda.
Well, no, because you mentioned the Chagos Islands as another surrender thing. This is a fantastically important territory to the Americans, apart from anything else, because of Diego Garcia. They are paying for the day-to-day running. We are paying...
We're paying to cut the tax rates of Mauritius.
So we are at the behest of the US. We have always been the US's lapdog, and that's why all this came about.
I want to whiz back, because the other big thing, apart from Gibraltar, of course, was this spending review, right? So I think I'm right in saying it's £300 billion worth of new public money, £140 billion worth of new borrowing, all right? So... I mean, has Rachel Reeves just bankrupted Britain today?
Well, we were pretty bankrupted anyway. We're now even more bankrupted. I mean, you would think we were absolutely awash with cash to hear this statement today. You would have thought the Chancellor was saying, I've got absolutely billions on the desk and I just can't think of ways to spend it. I'm afraid the opposite is true. No serious spending reductions here at all. Yvette Cooper's disappointed because the Home Office budget, I think, has been cut by 1.4%. The big winners out of this are defence, which I do approve of, the NHS, I'm not sure more money there is going to solve the problem, and Ed Miliband. Those are the big winners today. And we've got to have a serious discussion at some point that the numbers do not add up. And we can't get taxes up ever higher to pay for this. We've got to get spending down. And she was just talking about investment. It's not. It's spending.
Well, I've got the Shadow Paymaster General on later on in the show, yes. So we're going to be talking to him. But just on this, taxes will have to go up. And the news is breaking tonight, by the way. And get ready for this front pages show that I'm doing 11 till 12, because they're going to have dissected it by then. The news is coming out. Council tax going up to fund police. That's the rumour for a start. That's already happened.
That's been confirmed.
5%.
So there you go.
It's been agreed at 5%.
Right.
You can go up
plus
to
whatever
5%.
else they can. I mean,
the legal maximum.
I mean, I think you're right saying in Windsor and Maidenhead, they're trying to put council tax up by 20% recently. So if you add another 5% to that, I mean, it is ludicrous, really. But and now Labour MPs, who had one on this channel earlier on today, are refusing to rule out tax rises. I mean, this is just it's shattering, isn't it?
Look, Rachel Reeves is unashamedly maxing out the country's credit card at the moment, and I really do think, look, we're not about to have a sort of 2008 financial crisis tomorrow, but I do think, given the way she's running the economy, that by the time of the next election, I don't think she'll want to be Chancellor afterwards, because it's going to be such an enormous mess.
She has to somehow put right all the damage that the Conservatives have done over 40. It's quite true.
By spending more.
Every single
making everything worse.
But you don't know that. You're going hysterical about what might happen in October. This is not October.
It's not.
This is June.
All right.
Let's just see how it goes.
She was so confident she'd have allowed the OBR to audit these books, which she didn't because she knows she's lying to the public.
Yeah. OK,
Not lying.
Good, that's enough for
Show me one
Thank you very much. OK, lovely stuff. Wow, we are counting talking, just giving things away for free. Here we go. No, it's not sponsored by Rachel Reeves. This is very much ours. It's time for your best summer so far. 54,321 quid in tax-free cash. Here's how you could be in it to win it.
It's our biggest cash prize to date, and you could win it. £54,321 in totally tax-free cash could make your year the best yet. How would you react if you got that winning call?
Oh my God, I'm going to cry.
Do you know what? I've never won anything like this in my life.
Oh my God, this is amazing. Thank you.
You weren't expecting to get that call today, were you?
No, I wasn't.
£54,321 could make you our biggest cash winner to date. For a chance to win £54,321 cash, text cash to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB14 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 1st of August. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Well, very shortly, I am going to be revealing that here at GB News we have smashed a gang. I'm also going to be talking about this guy who's a prolific sex offender who's been handed a £10 fine for flashing 7 times. It's remarkable, isn't it? Frankly, though, it's a justice system that is leaving women and girls at the risk of predators. Before that, though, Keir Starmer's top mate, the Attorney General, thinks that anyone, who wants to leave the ECHR is a far-right fascist. All of them. Give that woman a passport. So, is the government's plan to decriminalise rough sleeping really a good idea? That's next.
This is Britain's Newsroom, where your voice matters.
It's just astonishing. With expert analysis and honest opinion, we don't just keep you informed.
We bring you unique perspectives you won't see anywhere else.
Can't argue with any of that. When the news happens, it happens here.
On Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 a.m.
Only on GB News.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk now?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints. How many fingers have I got up?
About 10.
So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m. only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's political podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's political podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
At GB News, we are proud to stand for you, for the Britain you love, for the communities you live in. That's what makes us the fearless champions of Britain, its voices and its values. Because we, at GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more.
Whether it's breaking royal news, please bring us up to date, or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons.
Very, very curious.
We bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I'm Nana Acquia. This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back. Very shortly, huge GB News exclusive. I've infiltrated a people smuggling gang, and we think we have probably smashed it. But first, should rough sleeping really be decriminalised? It's time now for the head-to-head. Much bigger story than it sounds at face value, this. So the government will abolish the 200-year-old Vagrancy Act and decriminalise rough sleeping next spring. This means that it will no longer be a criminal offence to sleep on a pavement, and police will lose powers to move rough sleepers on. So the Deputy Prime Minister, Angela Rayner, today announced an increase in funding for homelessness services and new laws to protect the public from organised begging by gangs and trespassing. But homelessness is up 14% on the previous year, and there are huge concerns that this could cause some kind of San Francisco-style tent cities. In fact, London's famous Park Lane is currently home to a camp full of migrants. Indeed, this was the charming response I received when I visited a lovely lady who will no doubt go on to contribute in a really, really good way to Britain. Keir Starmer's top mate, the Attorney General, thinks that anyone, who wants to leave the ECHR is a far-right fascist. All of that and much more. Just legal, that now, isn't it? But it's not just London. Manchester city centre is also home to a massive homeless camp. And after Chancellor Rachel Reeves promised to shut all migrant hotels by 2029, can you see where we're going with this? Where do we think those illegal migrants are going to live? So tonight I'm asking, should rough sleeping really be decriminalised? Going head-to-head on this now, the former Tory MP Alex Stafford and the human rights activist Peter Tatchell. Thank you very much, chaps. Alex, I'll start with you. I actually think this is incredibly dangerous, isn't it, to decriminalise rough sleeping?
Well, I think we've got to see what this actually involves. Everyone wants to end homelessness, but we also want to end the massive amount of tent cities that are springing up already in London, Manchester and other places. And that, to me, is a huge concern. If you take powers away from the police, they can't actually enforce the law and actually protect society. Now, we also want to realise very few people are actually prosecuted. I think last year, only 79 people were prosecuted. Only 59 people were actually convicted of being homelessness, for whatever better word. So actually, the powers are only used very, very occasionally. So when the police had the powers, they only use them when clearly they really, really think is an urgent matter to deal with. So I don't see why we're taking extra powers away from the police. The police are using them, they clearly need them, but only exceptional situations.
Peter, when women work late or they come back from a night out and they decide to walk home, right? They will now face probably more of a gauntlet of mostly homeless men, won't they? How is this safe?
Well, of course, if homeless people misbehave, they can and should be prosecuted in accordance with the law. But the fact is the vast majority of homeless people in this country are Indigenous British people, many of whom have mental health problems. They have addictions, whether it be to drugs or alcohol. Many are ex-forces, people who have left the armed forces and ended up on the streets because they've got no family or support. Quite a lot are victims of marital breakdowns where husbands have felt obliged to give up their home to their wife and children, and they've ended up on the streets. So there's a constellation of different reasons here, but the way to deal with this is to provide help and support to get people off the streets. And many years ago, I worked with single homeless people, and our strategy was not hand out, but hand up. We helped them get back on their feet. We help
yes,
them.
I get that. I understand that, and I'm especially sympathetic, by the way, to the homeless veterans. I think it's a disgrace in Britain that we seem able to house loads of other people, especially people who just 400 people came across the channel today. Every single one of them will have a roof over their head tonight. But if you went and fought for Britain in Afghanistan, the Falklands or Iraq or wherever else, there's a good chance you're on the streets this evening, and that is a disgrace. But Alex, the other knock-on effect to this is, for me, is that we are supposedly going to be shutting down all the migrant hotels by 2029. OK, where are those people going to live? And, you know, shock horror, they've just decriminalised rough sleeping. We all know what's going to happen, Alex.
Well, you're exactly right. And I don't disagree with anything Peter said. We need to look after people. But the law's only being used in very exceptional situations as it is. So my question is, why take that power away from the police? And as you just said, we know the migrant hotels are going to be shut down. We know under Labour, the number of migrants is just exploding through the roof, 400 extra today. Where are they going to go? If they're going to be turfed at the hotels, they will end up on the street. They'll turn into skid rows across the country. My question is, we should give the police more powers to protect British people rather than take the powers away from the police.
Peter, an extra incentive to come to Britain, isn't it? Even if you break into Britain, even if you leg it out your migrant hotel, even if you're on the run from the police, well, basically, as long as you can find a tent somewhere, you can probably stay.
I share people's anger about the huge sums, the billions being spent on migrant hostels. But the solution is to allow people who are seeking refuge to work while they're...
What jobs are they going to do, Peter, realistically? You have this glorious notion that they're all brain surgeons. I've been over there,
no, they're not all brain surgeons.
I'm telling you now, there's not a job in Earth.
I know from the refugees that my foundation helps, they want to work, and many of them do have the skills we need. The government, by not allowing them to work, is forcing them into hostels. It's forcing them to live on less than, or about £40 a week, which no one could survive on.
What's stopping that Bulgarian woman who lobbed a load of water over me from getting a job, Peter?
The solution is, let these people work pending the processing of their application. That means they would contribute to the economy, they'd pay tax, they'd pay national insurance, and most importantly, they could pay for their own accommodation and their own food.
Peter, honestly, I'll tell you what...
It would relieve the taxpayer.
Utterly deluded. Utterly deluded.
Well, it works. It works. In some other countries, they have this system, and it works.
Yeah, and the ones who can't get a job over there find their way to Britain, don't they, Peter? That's why we're seeing so many people who are there in Calais. Yes, it is, absolutely. I've been there. I've seen it firsthand. It's happening. You can't bury your head in the sunlight anymore. I mean, Alex, what do you think? I mean, this idea now of, you know, having more homeless people on the street, I can't help but wonder whether or not a lot of the middle-class lefties who are in favour of this are going to suddenly be against it when, you know, all of a sudden there's some kind of San Francisco-style campsite in Hampstead.
Well, we've seen what happens in San Francisco, Skid Row, but also in Calais and other parts of Europe where they are not being moved on. So when more and more tent cities will appear, and no doubt getting rid of this law will increase the likelihood of these sort of tent cities appearing, people are going to ask the police, say, come on, let's do something about it. And the police are going to turn around and say, well, actually, I haven't got the powers anymore. What can I do? You wanted this to get rid of. And this goes back to my point. We shouldn't take the powers away because the police are only using it in very, very, very exceptional circumstances now. Why hamstring the police? The police clearly need those powers. They're clearly using them 79 times last year. So let's give them the powers because otherwise it will increase the problem. And as with more and more illegal immigrants coming over here, if they're chucked out of hospital, where are they going to stay? They're not going to get on the boats back, are they? They're going to end up on the streets, in tents, and the police aren't doing anything about it.
All right, Charles, thank you very much. A robust back and forth there, both of you. Thank you so much. Right, we've got loads more coming your way, including a bit more of this.
Extra £29 billion per year, £7 billion. With £52 billion, £20 billion, £39 billion over the next decade.
I've got more detail that's broken in the last hour or so about which of your taxes are now probably going to go up. The Shadow Paymaster General, Richard Holden, joins me shortly. And at 10 p.m, well, it's probably one of the biggest exclusives I've ever had on this show.
طقس ربي يبارك ها شو رايك؟ وجمعة وراحات شوف ما شاء الله شوف الأجواء.
Well, there we go. We have successfully infiltrated a people smuggling gang. I'll bring you that at 10 p.m. Before that, though, a prolific sex offender has been handed a £10 fine for flashing 7 times. Yep. Is this a slap in the face to all of his victims? Find out in just a few minutes.
Be nice to escape the grey.
Clear skies, here we come.
As clear as our travel insurance.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
The heat and humidity in Spain might just trigger one or two heavy thundery showers. Heat is also building in Italy. Sunny in Greece, not too hot here though, because the winds are coming down from the north. Very small chance of a heavy shower breaking out over Croatia, but generally the weather's set fair here. Inland over Italy, also potentially there may be one or two heavy downpours. It's fine, it's dry, it's sunny in the Canaries. That will continue for the next few days, and the temperatures in Rome sticking in the mid-30s into the weekend.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Evening. Welcome to your latest weather update from the Met Office here on GB News. It's been a warm and humid day today. That'll continue tonight and tomorrow, and the humidity sparking some thunderstorms in places too. Down to the southwest, that's where we're looking overnight tonight. Most of us having a dry night. The breeze will be picking up, but down to the southwest, thunderstorms spreading into southwest England, parts of South Wales by morning time. You could get woken up by a rumble of thunder here, if you can sleep that is, because it will be quite a warm and sticky night in the southwest. Towns and cities holding up in the mid-teens. It's got a warm start to Thursday everywhere. Hazy sunshine for many to begin with across Scotland, northern England to eastern England, but down to the southwest, these thunderstorms dropping a lot of rain in a short space of time. Not great for the morning commute. Could be some hazards on the roads, those thunderstorms extending into parts of Wales and then through the day into Northern Ireland. So we do have Met Office yellow warnings in place for those thunderstorms. Most of Scotland, though, starting dry and fine, perhaps a little misty along some coast. That breeze will be quite noticeable, getting quite gusty at times across eastern areas and also close to these heavy downpours. Could see some of them developing across southeast England. Heaviest ones likely further west, but then come the afternoon, if skies brighten, we may well spark further thunderstorms over parts of the Midlands. Far southwest of England should get a little bit brighter, whereas it stays pretty wet in Northern Ireland. Quite warm and quite humid. With some sunshine, we could again get temperatures into the mid-20s across parts of eastern England. Many places, they're a little bit cooler than that because of the heavy downpours and because of more cloud. Continued risk of thunderstorms during the course of tomorrow evening. Friday looks a little drier to begin with, but still some showers for Northern Ireland and parts of Wales. The threat of more thunderstorms then coming up from the south later on Friday. There's another Met Office yellow warning for that across East Anglia and the southeast. Friday, probably the warmest of this week. We may get to 30 Celsius in the east.
What is the state of our economy? What is the state of our National Health Service? What is the state of our schools?
What on earth is going on?
Understanding Britain means understanding the state we are in. This is State of the Nation with me, Matt Goodwin, Wednesdays, Thursdays and Fridays from 8 p.m. on GB News.
This is Britain's newsroom, where your voice matters.
It's just astonishing. With expert analysis and honest opinion, we don't just keep you informed.
We bring you unique perspectives you won't see anywhere else.
Can't argue with any of that. When the news happens, it happens here.
On Britain's newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 a.m.
Only on GB News.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK, we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News, the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Patrick Christys Tonight. Coming up, I have infiltrated a people smuggling gang bringing illegal immigrants across the Channel. I'll reveal all very shortly, but first, a prolific sex offender who admitted indecently exposing himself at train stations on 7 separate occasions was handed just a £10 fine. That's £1.42 for each of his shocking crimes. Leon Clark from South London also received a 1-year community order after admitting 7 counts of indecent exposure with intent to cause harm. Well, I'm very grateful to be joined this evening by the founder of Women's Safety Initiative. It's Jess Gill. Jess, thank you very, very much. I mean, this is just an obscene punishment, isn't it? Exposing yourself 7 times and being fined £1.42 per flash.
Well, first of all, thank you so much for having me on, Patrick. Yeah, you're absolutely right. I mean, it's so awful to know that every woman in this country's basic dignity, basic respect is simply worth less than £1.50, is less than worth in a train ticket itself. I think that speaks volumes. And I think, honestly, is this going to prevent future criminals coming forward about this? Absolutely not. I guarantee that this guy is going to reoffend in the future. I would bet £1.50 on that. I would bet a tenner on that. And there's no way that the government's going to do anything about it, that the police are going to do anything about it. And we wonder why so many women in this country feel unsafe going on public transport. So many women have come forward to us at the Women's Safety Initiative over the past few months and said they don't feel comfortable going into London alone without a man there. Like, what is this? What kind of country are we in that women can't simply go into London in the middle of the day without feeling unsafe?
Yeah, I think it's ridiculous. We hear so much virtue signalling from people in politics about the safety of women and girls in Britain. And yet when there's an actual issue, so whether it's actual grooming gangs or whether it's a bloke who actually flashed women on 7 separate occasions at a busy train station, there is very often next to no punishment. And you made the point there as well, which is what message does this send out to other people who've got some kind of sick, warped compulsion? You know, if you did have that completely disgusting desire, I do think you'd probably look at what this guy got, which is like some kind of year rehab somewhere, and a £10 fine, and you'd probably just crack on and do it, wouldn't you?
Absolutely. I mean, this is way too common. I mean, for example, my friend Anna, who's a deputy director of WSI, recently she had an incident where this man was taking photos of her on the train, and luckily she recorded it. She stood up to him, and again, like, he didn't seem fussed by it. In fact, he seemed quite entertained by the fact that she was coming forward about it. She reported it to the police, and they did nothing about it. So even if you do have evidence, even if you do come forward about this, there's no guarantee that justice will be served. And that's the women who are brave enough, who feel courageous enough to come out about it. Never mind the countless other women who don't feel safe coming forward, who don't have evidence.
This must stick with people, you know. I mean, this must stick with all of those women who had to go through this. I mean, it seems like the kind of thing that might have been, for want of a better phrase here, over in a flash, but it's probably not, because, you know, they have to see that. They might feel more scared now whenever they get on a train. They might even have nightmares about it. They might have to go to therapy. It's the kind of thing that's very shocking and very scary, I imagine. And, you know, they have to live with this for the rest of their lives. This bloke pays a tenner, and that's it.
Yeah, it's honestly outrageous. I think, again, this is testament to the fact that when, you know, we have to, when the government has to take criminals into account, they'd rather give someone like Lucy Connolly, a massive fine, a massive prison sentence, and let people like this off the hook. And I don't understand how they can let that guy get away with it, let these men get away with it. I mean, another instance of this, which was reported not too long ago, was reported today, I think, was that a man who, I think he sexually assaulted multiple women, was let off with like 27 weeks in prison. And again, like, by posting a mean tweet, you get more than that. I think there's a massive disparity in terms of what's being punished in this country. Yeah, well,
100%. And just thank you very much. And by the way, I think that this is a fantastic thing that you and your colleagues are doing, this Women's Safety Initiative. You're exposing what's going on in Britain and actually voicing a very brave thing to do, by the way. There's no doubt you and your friends have had a lot of pushback for it from the usual types. But you are speaking for millions of women and girls out there. So thank you very, very much for that. It's Jess Gill there, is the founder of the Women's Safety Initiative. Coming up at 10 p.m. Yeah, big exclusive. This.
طقس ربي يبارك ها شو رايك؟ وشي مع وراحات شوف ما شاء الله شوف الاجواء.
Well, we were a bit sick and tired of the government saying they were going to smash the gang, so we decided to do it for them. We got phone numbers, messages, locations, even audio recordings of members of a people smuggling gang. We've handed it over to the authorities. I'll show you exactly what happened at 10 p.m, but before that...
Extra £29 billion per year, £7 billion. With £52 billion, £20 billion, £39 billion over the next decade.
I strongly suspect that Rachel Reeves is about to make you poorer. Joining me is the Shadow Paymaster General Richard Holden. Don't miss that.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk then?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
The fact is Trump made a good start. No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up?
About 10. So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster, the ultimate clique.
And you're fighting like rats in a sack.
But here on the Camilla Tominey Show, we ask the questions the establishment media is too scared to ask.
OK, let me ask you a straight question, because I know you're a straight-talking politician.
Whether it's net zero, illegal immigration or law and order, nothing is off limits.
You had the power then.
Yeah, as
and now you've lost it.
That's the Camilla Tominey Show, a politics show that's fearless.
But no, let me finish my question if you don't mind, because it is my show.
Sundays at 9:30, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
no,
isn't it? Because the failure is...
You're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff.
Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood.
So join me on Dubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more. Whether it's breaking royal news, please bring us up to date, or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons.
Very, very curious.
We bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight-talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
What is the state of our economy? What is the state of our National Health Service? What is the state of our schools?
What on earth is going on?
Understanding Britain means understanding the state we are in. This is State of the Nation with me, Matt Goodwin, Wednesdays, Thursdays and Fridays from 8 p.m. on GB News.
Welcome back to Patrick Christys tonight. We're only on GB News. Look, coming up, don't miss this. I've infiltrated a people smuggling gang. Starmer says he wants to smash the gangs. I got sick of waiting. I just went and did it. But first, after weeks and weeks of anticipation, the Chancellor announced £300 billion of new spending on public services and infrastructure projects in her spending review today.
Extra £29 billion per year for the day-to-day running of our health service. £7 billion to fund 14,000 new prison places. Affordable Homes programme, in which I am investing £39 billion over the next decade, with £52 billion for Scotland. £20 billion for Northern Ireland by the end of the spending review, and £23 billion for Wales. Defence spending will now rise to 2.6% of GDP by April 2027.
I'm joined now by the Shadow Paymaster General, Richard Holden. Well, Richard, I suppose the obvious question for me to ask you is why didn't the Tories splash the cash like this?
Well, I think you'll see a lot of these numbers are just re-announcements. They've repackaged them and they've really put them out there. I think the truth is, though, what we're seeing from the Chancellor today is they're trying to pull the wool over everybody's eyes. It's all smoke and mirrors. For example, that defence spending package, a crucial one. What all they have done is literally roll in the intelligence budget, which is around, it's going to be rise to around £5 billion by the end of this Parliament, into the defence budget, and then said, actually, defence spending is going up. So actually, there's no new money there. The killer, though, for Rachel at the moment is around this debt cost. And what we've seen around the world is debt costs rise over the last few years. That's fair enough. But the UK is now paying a massive premium compared to the US, compared to Italy.
Let's bring the debt clock up, because we've got it, if we can. Bring the debt clock up. So why is this so important? Because for a lot of people, it just feels... Here it is. Let's have a look at this. I mean, that is Britain's debt rising. So there you go. But why is this so important?
The really important thing about this is actually the interest we pay. And we are paying over £100 billion of interest a year. Now, that'll be These are massive figures. But to put that in context for for everybody, basically all council tax receipts in the country, roughly every year, are around £50 billion. So imagine if everybody in the country was paying double their council tax. That is the amount just on the debt interest alone that we are paying to service that debt. And the key thing is today, hundreds of billions of pounds notional spending announced, but no idea of how to pay for it. And that's the real kicker for the
this is the one I don't quite get, because when Liz Truss and Kwasi Kwarteng did something a bit like that, that was financial Armageddon, and it essentially brought them down. But why is Rachel Reeves allowed to do this?
Well, actually, we're seeing the debt costs on our 10-year bonds. We borrow it on these long-term things called government gilts. 10-year bonds now at the highest rate we're paying since not when Kwasi was there, but actually since 2008, when Gordon Brown was last there, in the heart of that financial crisis. On our 30-year bonds, Patrick, almost paying the highest level for almost 30 years, which is almost as long as you've been alive, I think. So, we are literally paying through the nose at these record high levels and we're paying higher than our other partners because nobody has confidence that Rachel Reeves is actually going to manage the books.
Well, what I will say is this. There's some of the key areas of today where she was just got the country's chequebook out and started splashing it all over the place. Defence, immigration and asylum, nuclear power, steel, social housing, transport, police and prisons, from schools, the NHS, and I'm going to take the NHS out of that, and I'm going to say, to be fair on it, you let all those things go to pot, didn't you?
Well, look at actually what we did in the last year of our time in government. Actually, spending per head in schools was the highest ever level. NHS, highest ever level. I'm not saying that there weren't difficult decisions when we came in 2010. We had to balance the books. The danger now is we're looking at this. The books are absolutely being torn apart by Rachel Reeves today. This is a massive splurge of borrowing, and the real danger, I think, is around that debt interest issue, because we cannot get away from that. That is over £100 billion. It's so much money that we really have to get on top of that straight away. And I really worry about anybody now pledging to spend loads more money. We have to get that under control.
But they're going to shut asylum hotels. They're going to say, by the way, sorry, one more quick one with you. By the way, I'm just getting something in my ear. It's quite important. I believe that our Northern Ireland reporter, Doogie Beattie, is out and about for us. We're going to go to him in a second. I think we are expecting another night of these anti-immigration protests. From the information that I've had, it's about to kick off big time where Doogie is. I'm going to take you to him in a second. So, Richard, sorry about this, but
no, of course.
Look, they've said that they're going to shut these asylum hotels, every single one of them, by 2029. Well, that's going to save us £4.7 billion quid a year.
They promised to do that within a year of getting in, and we know that's not happened. The truth is you have to have an effective deterrent. Yes, we needed to get Rwanda sorted. They cancelled it. It was a few £100 million to get Rwanda over the line. It would have been a major deterrent. And instead, we're paying billions a year to house people in the UK. It's a ridiculous situation that Labour is in. I think the truth is the entire lot need to go. It's not just about her. It's about Keir. It's about Ange. It's about the entire motley crew. They all need to go, Patrick.
Well, that's spoken like a true Tory. I mean, to be fair, that is the opposition for you, isn't it? But anyway, thank you very much.
Thanks, Patrick.
Great to have you on. That is, of course, Richard Holden, our Shadow Paymaster General. Yes, look, we are going to go live now to Northern Ireland. I'm just going to throw it straight over to our GB News Northern Ireland reporter, Doogie Beattie. I've got it here, Doogie, that you're in Ballymena. Do you want to just tell me what's going on where you are, please?
Well, this is night 3 of riots in Ballymena. The police have took a totally different line tonight. They have become very aggressive, opening up with dogs, riot shields, and pushing across, trying to push the crowds out behind me there. You can just see, I don't know if you can see in the distance there, the Land Rovers. They've just got hit with petrol bombs. The police are putting out warnings that there is going to be impact rounds fired any second now, and for the crowd to disperse. And of course, this is all over immigration. Hold on.
This is a police message. The crowd should disperse immediately as force is about to be used against violent individuals.
That's the warning. No further warnings will be given. So the police are about to push up this road and basically try and push all those crowds. There's probably about 2,500 people here, Patrick, and most of them are down in that road looking at those police. And this is all frustration over the head of Roma migrants in the town, criminality, lack of respect for young women, so many different things. There's fireworks going off now, and of course, as I said last night, what happens is other towns, it's not just here, other towns then try and draw the police out, and we have now heard that Larne Leisure Centre, where the immigrants that were forced out of here have been taken to, is on fire in Larne. That's about 28 miles away from where we're standing now, Larne Port. That leisure centre is on fire, and the fire crews could not get into it because there was no tactical support units from the PSNI available at that time for that to happen. So really this is starting to spread through towns in Northern Ireland, and it really is quite tense here at this moment in time.
Dougie, look, thank you. Make sure that you stay safe, because you did say that it looked as though the police might be about to start, what, firing pellets and firing things at the crowd, do you think?
Well, they're going to start firing impact rounds. We would know them in the 80s as plastic bullet rounds, and they will then end up with water cannon. They've already had the dogs out, setting them across, and the police decided tonight to take the initiative and push first before too many rioters got into place. It may have been a good idea for them to do so, because that flash point that's down in there in the back, where the Roma migrants are living, is now well protected, and the police are pushing the rioters up the road towards us now. So you can see they've given the warning. The police with the riot shields has come in, they've gone forward, and now there's stones being thrown at those police Land Rovers and petrol bombs getting thrown in. There's another stone away in. Yes, Ballymena is in night 3 of immigrant riots, because there is no housing here, no social housing.
Yeah, exactly that, Dougie. You took the words out of my mouth. So I was going to ask, just for our viewers who are maybe just joining, a bit new to the developments that's going on in Ireland, so Northern Ireland, sorry. What are the problems there then? So what has started this? How has it, got to this particular point? Because, look, crimes happen all the time. I get that, but this speaks to me about a really big boiling point, powder keg societal problem here in Northern Ireland.
It's just not Northern Ireland, Patrick, it's the whole of Ireland. We only have about 7 million people in Ireland, and of course, because of the protocol, we are not, we have no border. Europe controls our borders, and all the immigrants that came in through the Republic of Ireland came north. The Rwanda plan came, and they left Northern Ireland and went back into the Republic of Ireland. But then, of course, Keir Starmer did away with the Rwanda plan, and then we've had a massive influx of migrants looking to be part of the UK, because, of course, they'll get all the same benefits as the rest of the UK. And when they get to Northern Ireland, they can travel with no passport straight into England, Scotland and Wales. So being in Northern Ireland is a great advantage. But what has happened is the private landlords make up about 25% of our social housing. Now, there's a group called Mears, I'm sure you have groups exactly the same that look after migrant costs and housing. And what has happened is Mears has offered all the private landlords twice the rents in order to keep these migrants, because, of course, the government is giving them the big money to get them out of the hotels. So what is happening is all the people of Ballymena that lived here, born here, actually can't get housed here, and that too is causing friction in this area. And not only can they not get housed here, if landlords are getting £2,000 a month for a house, then every house in the street goes for £2,000, whether there's migrants in them or not. And that is pushing the young people out of this area. It's changing the culture of this area, and this is happening right across Northern Ireland.
What we just played there, Dougie, as you were talking, was clips from, I think, a couple of hours ago, where a leisure centre was burnt down. Now, I can understand people being very angry about the situation. I can understand people feeling as though that they are natives and they're at the back of the queue, that their tax money's being taken off them, and that there is huge safety risks, especially disproportionately towards women and girls. The one thing I will say about that, though, Dougie, is what was the point of burning that leisure centre down?
Well, the reason they burnt the leisure centre down it's a stupid reason, but all the migrants that were taken out of here were brought to that leisure centre. and then we're going to be dispersed again across Northern Ireland. So they decided that they would burn the leisure centre down. That's what I'm being told why they did that. It seems very stupid because they have actually burnt their own facilities in Larne, which will be a real problem for the community there.
Yeah, well, no, indeed. Can you just describe to me what kinds of people we're seeing here? They're a little bit far away from me, but I mean, are we looking at mostly young men? Is there women and children in those crowds there? You know, what's the kind of demographics we're looking at?
Well, there is a lot of young men, but there's a lot of people my age and older. There's middle-class people. There's people from working classes, people from right across the spectrum here. And I mean, some of the people I spoke to today that don't want to be identified. And they're saying, we're not racist, but we can't afford this anymore. It has to stop. In fact, Emma Little-Pengelly, the Deputy First Minister, arrived here today, and I asked her when was she going to protect women and so forth in Northern Ireland, and look at how these migrants are behaving. And she told me they had a plan. And I said to her, well, plans are no good, Emma. You have to have them in place, because these people are fed up of waiting for plans, because every government that has came in has said they will deal with this issue, and they haven't. And this is the frustration now coming from the public, and it's showing to the politicians.
Yeah, and look, there's clearly, as you well know, Dougie, and you've been very careful about this, you know, an active case going on of two younger people who had to use Romanian interpreters at a court as they denied various charges. But it's not just about that, is it, as far as you're concerned? Has that been the straw that broke the camel's back? I mean, how big a problem is there with with essentially, you know, kind of migrants, both illegal or legal, you know, committing sexual attacks against women in Northern Ireland? I mean, is this a big thing? Is it a big deal over there?
Well, if you attack, even in the height of the Troubles in Northern Ireland, if you attacked a woman, a child or a pensioner, you would be in serious trouble. Women in Northern Ireland are held in very high esteem, believe it or not. People talk about the culture of these different people coming in. The culture of this society, a Christian society, is women and children are at the very top of their culture and at the very top of their society. And for young women not to be able to walk through certain areas without being chased down, and maybe it's not the migrants' fault, maybe that's how they behave in their own country, but it's not how they will behave in this country. And this is really what you're really getting at, Patrick, and you're correct in what you're saying. I do not like violence. I condemn all violence. And I don't think the rioting here is right, but they have asked their politicians to sort this out time and time again, and it hasn't been sorted out. So they have now decided to take this into their own hands.
And just to give us an update there, I mean, I thought I could maybe hear a couple of bangs going off behind you there, Dougie. What's going on there? We can listen in, I think. What is it?
Well, what you're getting there is fireworks, slight blast bombs that are packed into a pipe, and petrol bombs going in there towards the police. And this is a shame for the police, Patrick, because don't forget, our police force are part of our country. They live here. They are part of our society. And really, this is a police force being put in to enforce a government policy of migration. And you can see what's happening. They are right in the middle of this. And unfortunately, 15 officers were injured. There were 6 arrests last night. And the Chief Constable says that he is now going to call in other forces from across the UK to make sure that he can bring peace back.
Yeah, well, quite. And I do feel incredibly sorry for police, generally speaking, of course, and they have maybe got an impossible job. I do wonder in situations like this, Dougie, I'm sure you do as well, you know, who's to say that some of those police officers don't have some of the same views about the situation, about integration, immigration, as the people who are protesting, you know, about it now. But the police's job is to stand there and basically kind of take this battering and push back on it. But then the more you push back, then the more response you get, it appears, from the people of Ballymena there. They're kind of in an impossible job, these police officers, aren't they?
Well, they are. They're caught in an impossible situation, Patrick, and they are very, very good people. The PSNI is a fantastic force, but they are being caught in the middle of something that is not of their making. And really, the politicians need to help them here because, of course, they're now stretched. I mean, tonight on the Shankill Road, they had roads blocked. The same in Taggers Bay. Lauren has had a leisure centre set on fire. And the politicians, even Keir Starmer today in the House is saying this is terrible, this is awful, but they can fix this problem quite quickly. And the first part of that is stop giving landlords more money for housing migrants. That might go a great way to starting this. And the next thing is, don't put all the migrants into the same area, because what ends up happening is you have an area of Romas, you have an area of Muslims, you have an area of Iraqis, Syrians, and they all have their own culture. And then they demand the rights in society, and you end up with all these no-go areas inside areas, cities such as this one. And that is what these areas have become for young white females. They are a no-go area.
All right, Doogie, well, look, what I'm going to do, if it's all right with you, is I'm going to just leave you wherever you feel safe for a couple of minutes. I've got an exclusive because we managed to actually infiltrate a human trafficking gang earlier, so I'm going to throw to that now. If you maybe get yourself, I don't know if you're going to move or what you're going to do, get yourself set up, and I'm going to throw back to you as soon as I can. Doogie Beattie, thank you very, very much. On Northern Ireland Reporter, reporting live from what appears to be the very start of another night, sadly, of widespread protests in Northern Ireland. We're going to go back to that as and when it develops, as I'm sure you can understand. But I am desperate to bring you this story. I have infiltrated a Channel migrant smuggling gang, and I'm about to make a mockery of Sir Keir Starmer's claims that he's doing everything to smash them. Within minutes, you find profiles like this on TikTok. The profile makes it clear that he regularly gets people from northern France across the Channel and into Britain.
طقس ربي يبارك ها شو رايك وجمعة وراحات شوف ما شاء الله شوف الاجواء الله اكبر الاجواء جدا جميله والاجواء جدا رائعه يومكم طيب هلا والله هلا يلا يا سيدي اجواءك وفعالياتك شمر لي درعانك ويا سيدي مرحبا.
So we reached out on TikTok posing as a Vietnamese migrant who wanted to take a small boat to Britain. He then gave us his personal phone number and we communicated via WhatsApp. He confirmed that he was in France. He sent us the exact locations of several different boat launches. He quoted us €1,500 for the crossing. We asked if he does this often, and the quote is, yes, it's my job. He then sent us more locations as recently as yesterday. So we said, where are you going to get the boats from? How do we get there? We want to get on a boat that's going to take us from northern France across the Channel to Britain. And he sent us a location yesterday of where to get that boat, pinpointed it on a map. And then we kept putting him off for obvious reasons. There he is, you see. That's exactly where one of those boats was setting off from today. He started sending us voice notes confirming that he was organising illegal crossings into Britain.
Hello, my friend, how are you? My friend, you must tomorrow come here in Cali, and after tomorrow we go, inshallah. Okay? You must tomorrow to come here the morning, and we go there in the mountain, and after tomorrow we go, inshallah.
No, my friend, tomorrow. No, after tomorrow. Because tomorrow in the afternoon we go to UK, okay?
So we have cast iron proof of who this guy is, what his phone number is, so authorities can track him. If you know someone's phone number, you can track their exact location. We have proof that he's part of a smuggling gang, and we have the exact times and locations of when and where his boats are launching from. So we handed his phone number, our entire communications and his locations to the National Crime Agency here in Britain and the French authorities. 400 illegal immigrants broke into Britain today alone. We have also infiltrated another gang and passed all of their information on to the authorities. And I will have more news on that for you when we are allowed. This is an embarrassment for the Prime Minister. For all of his talk...
He promised that he would stop the boats this year.
I think the way to stop the boats is to smash the criminal gangs.
People crossing in small boats across the channel. We have to stop that.
For all of the money that Chancellor Rachel Reeves announced today, more than 600 million quid to tackle illegal immigration, for all of the hundreds of millions that British taxpayers have sent to the French, what we did here at GB News, we've been able to do it in a couple of days for next to no money at all, and we've found people smugglers, we've identified them, we've obtained all the incriminating evidence you would need for a prosecution, we've got their voice on record and their exact locations. It was easy. I am convinced that if we had 5 people in this office working on it full-time, GB News would smash more gangs than the Labour government. It's over to the authorities now, though, isn't it? Let's get thoughts from our panel this evening. We've got the Director of the Popular Conservatives, Mark Littlewood. We also have the big shot at the Daily Express. It's Christys Calgie and broadcaster extraordinaire Nina Mishkov. So, Mark, it's over to the authorities now. We literally, short of me going and meeting them, which, by the way, I literally could have done because I know exactly where they are pretty much at all times, short of me going there and slashing a boat myself, we could not have done more. It is as easy as that to find out who some of these people are. We're not doing everything we possibly can as a country to stop them.
I don't know what you're doing here, Patrick. You should be the new head of Border Force, shouldn't you? I mean, you know, I appreciate these are snapshots, and I was trying to get the precise numbers about how's the smashing the gangs going. I think there's only been 5 arrests so far. I might be wrong on that, but that's the information that I've found. And I think you're right. It should be pretty easy to mop these people up. Obviously, there's an issue that they're on French territory. We need to get that working, but we are paying the French hundreds of millions. And you would think, again, the deterrent effect. Once you'd rounded up, I don't know, 10, 20, 30, 40 of these people, a lot of them would take a very, very different view of it. So the smash the gangs thing, I think, from the Labour Party and the government has turned out to be a slogan, not a policy or a strategy. I think you're right. GB News seem to be carrying this out at least as well, if not better, than Border Force.
I don't know what our viewers and listeners think about this. I find it personally offensive that we are continuously being told, Christian, that they're doing everything they can to smash the gangs, that we're giving more money to the French, when actually, if I called a human trafficker now, I could get him on the phone, and if you actually had anything about you as the police force, you could pinpoint his exact location, you could go and nab him. It is as easy as that.
Yeah, look, it's a combination of French laziness and British government laziness. It was Dominic Cummings, was it just a couple of weeks ago? He did an interview on Sky News. And he said, you could easily, so-called, smash the gangs. You get the SAS involved, you fly them over, you do these sort of scoping exercises, you get the location, you extradite 10 or so in a night, you bring them over, you do a show trial, and you let every single people trafficker know that every single one of their TikTok posts will be targeted by British intelligence, and we'll swoop in and we'll get them, and that's it, that's done. You could do it. You could do it in 1 or 2 months, and if the French don't like it, well, they can go swivel.
No, you cannot just parachute the SAS.
Of course you can.
You cannot.
Of course you can.
It's unbelievable.
If the French don't like it, they've already been invaded. They should get used to it.
So they parachute the French equivalent of the French Foreign Legion into Dover.
To do what?
To do what?
Take them back.
I'm saying, I'm trying to show you the equivalent. Of course
Nina,
we're
being invaded.
You didn't mind the Spanish being in control of the Gibraltar passport system earlier, so you're not that bothered, are you?
I am certainly bothered about that. But I was also bothered
sovereignty for thee, not for me.
No, that's absolutely not it. You cannot just parachute into another person's country.
Well, you'd hope the French authorities would lift them.
We're paying them hundreds of million pounds.
Can I just let me? Look, you know, it doesn't look very good. 3 men against one woman. You know, give me a chance, for God's sake. First of all, the whole problem with this is that the French have not cooperated to the extent we want them. Secondly, the laws of the French land meant that they couldn't go into the water to stop the boats. Now they're changing that, so the French are coming on side gradually. Next, and you can laugh at this, but Macron is coming over here for a state visit with King Charles. That is soft power. That is twisting his arm up his back to get more cooperation. Also, Starmer has gone to Albania. He's also gone to Maloney, who is not the political bedfellow of the Labour government, but she has, you know, she has much more experience and she's tougher. So he's trying everything. I agree. What you did was absolutely brilliant, but you can't expect Keir Starmer to suddenly go and do that.
The point is, if we are constantly being told through the rhetoric of this Labour government that this is basically a national emergency, it's keeping him awake at night. He hates it. If I was him, I would hate the idea that a relatively chubby northern TV presenter has been able to get hold of 2 people smuggling gangs, give you everything you could possibly need to know about them, including every single shred of evidence you would need to be able to convict those people, and play it out on national television. I'm going to keep doing this. Keep playing out national television and ask, what are your authorities doing about it?
I think this is very fair. And although I'm intrigued that Christian would send in the SAS, I wonder whether we can actually find a slightly more straightforward economic solution with the French, which I think I've suggested to you before, Patrick. We'll pay them by results, right? So if we can't go in and lift these people, we will send their pin on a particular map, and we'll say, if you lift this person and hand him over to British authorities, we will pay you X. I don't know what the particular bounty will be. We're setting aside whatever it is, 400, 500 million pounds to pay for all of this. Each one that you catch, we'll give you 100 grand, sake of argument.
OK, but another easy solution as well is, and I saw this firsthand from when I actually bothered to go around Calais and around those areas there, that they're all organising it on TikTok, which is what really gave me the idea to go and have a look at these things, and we work with a couple of other people as well on this. And you could get... I mean, TikTok isn't a state, right? It's not France. It's a social media company. You could... Yeah, OK, fair enough. Maybe he's got a whiff of China about it. However, but you could get them, surely, that company, to take all of these things down, do it more quickly. I mean, we've gone to TikTok, we've asked them why they're allowing all of this stuff on there. You know, it's not difficult, is it, to do all of this stuff?
No, it's not. But, you know, it's the pace, it's the sheer... It just seems Starmer is in autopilot and he doesn't really care about the issue, and he's been wanging on about this for 12 months now.
Why do you think he doesn't care?
Because this is not... He's not treating it like an emergency.
He fundamentally doesn't care. In his mind, the only thing that matters is the adherence to international so-called humanitarian law and the UN Convention on Refugees and the ECHR.
He doesn't want
He doesn't care. As long as his mates in the international law and order are happy.
You know, that's such a ridiculously...
He's been... Imagine if he'd been in charge of Dunkirk. He'd be like, yeah, all right, we'll get you some rescue boats in 12 months. It's not good enough. Pull your finger out.
No, that is absolutely... That's ludicrous. That's typical Daily Express just shouting into a void.
Can I ask you, Sue, when you hear the clips that we've played there of those human traffickers and showing you evidence... I mean, by the way, there's a lot of stuff, as I'm sure everyone can understand, that we've held back for a variety of different reasons, right? But those are not the attitudes of people who are bothered about Keir Starmer smashing them, are they? They're not scared of... The gangs are not scared of Keir Starmer,
No, because that's my job. That's how he makes his living. So he doesn't care about any of that. I understand that, but why should he care about Keir Starmer?
Because we should be... If we were doing anything, they would feel a bit more uncomfortable than that, wouldn't they?
We don't know that they're not.
OK.
We don't know.
Well, they don't seem to... I mean,
you don't get drug dealers advertising on TikTok, right? That's the difference. They are so brazen, they don't care that their face is on social media.
Well, then perhaps you've shown them the way, Patrick. You've done a brilliant...
It doesn't look like there's much of a deterrent.
Nobody else has done it. No newspaper has done it.
Fair enough.
So good for you.
Thank you. OK, right, look, sorry about this, guys, and ladies. It's a fast-moving feast, this, because we are going to whiz ourselves back over to our Northern Ireland reporter, Doogie Beatties in Ballymena for us. Doogie, thank you very, very much. Can you just fill us in on exactly what's going on where you are, please? This is another night of, I suppose, anti-immigration protests in Northern Ireland, isn't it?
It definitely is, yes, Patrick. And the water cannon has just been brought up to the front. I think these water cannon were actually bought off Boris Johnson and brought here. And about 6 or 7 TSG Land Rovers have just screamed past behind us here. They've went round the back, and we can only assume that lots of these riders have tried to get round this shopping centre here and over the back end and in round behind the police lines. And those TSG Land Rovers have seemed to have gone at quite a speed here to try and head them off, we would think, or there is another front opening up somewhere along the line. But they're about to fire the water cannon here within the next few minutes. They have given 2 warnings that it's going to happen. They've already fired high impact rounds, and now they're going to try and put the water cannon on
What
these
do you
people
mean
here.
by high-impact rounds, Doogie? Sorry, can you just explain it to me, please? What do you mean by we've already had high-impact rounds?
They are plastic bullets. They're about this size, and when they hit you, I mean, they bruise you quite badly. They break your ribs. It's basically like a tasering, but with a bullet, and they fire them, and then they make the strangest sound when they fire. They go whoop, 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 and you can hear. But the problem is you can't really aim them. They just go into the crowd. Because they're not going fast enough like an ordinary bullet to stay straight, so they're very indiscriminate who they hit actually with them. And there we go. There's the water cannon gone.
Live
pictures. Water cannon's gone. Yeah, the water cannon has gone into the crowd, and yeah, trying to calm them down. And that means within the next few minutes here, the police will get together along behind those snatched Land Rovers and push up the street to try and disperse the crowd.
Yeah, OK. And can you explain the significance of the exact location here, Doogie, please? So why are they all gathering at this particular road? And if the police weren't there, what is it you think they'd be doing?
Pardon?
Sorry, why are they at this specific location now? And if the police weren't there, what do you think that these protesters would be doing?
Well, what has happened is the Roma population has all moved into about 5 streets down behind, as we've explained, about the private landlords that have rented these houses out. And the alleged assault that went on with a young girl. But there's also been a lot of high-end crime going on in that area, and various things being run in that area that shouldn't be run. And the locals have had enough. They just have had enough, and they've tried to get in to that area. Now, there was about 10 houses in total have been burnt out here in the last 2 nights. Many, many vehicles and many windows put in houses. And what they're doing is pushing those immigrants out of Ballymena. They want them out. They want them away. They've said they've given them every chance, and it continues to happen. So now what you're actually seeing here is social law. The people have decided we can't depend on our politicians. We're going to do this ourselves, whether it's right or it's wrong. But that is what's behind this.
I've seen some reports and pictures, Doogie, of what would appear to be as angry as the people are. Oh, in fact, tell me what's happening there. Sorry, what's that noise coming out of that speaker?
And threw on a Land Rover.
Sorry, say again, Patrick.
Sorry, Doogie. Is there a noise? Is there? I'm just trying to get. Sorry, I'm trying to hear what was going on behind you. I thought it was something coming out of a Land Rover there, but I think it's just a bit of background noise. I'm going to ask you, what has there been some serious issues with people just breaking down people's doors and genuinely just firebombing the homes of people that they think are immigrants? Because whilst I think most people are absolutely bang in favour of people standing up for the rights of women and girls and complaining against demographic change, they're not really in favour of just, well, that, are they?
No, I mean, one breaking of the law doesn't make the other one any less better. I mean, you're quite correct, Patrick. I mean, you shouldn't be running in and smashing people's doors in. But all these people, there has been no deaths here. There's been no injuries of Roma people at this point. They have been put out of this society. That is not right. It's not good. It's not good practice. But the people here are saying, we haven't got room for you. We haven't got jobs for you. And we haven't got houses for you. And most of all, yous are not looking at how we treat our women and our culture. And if you can't behave in that way, please do not come in. There's also organised crime going on down in there, Patrick, of which I can't actually say too much about. But there is organised crime, and there's many of these are illegal migrants in there.
OK. Doogie, thank you. Thank you very much. And stay safe over there, because it does look like an incredibly volatile situation. Doogie Beattie is on the scene for us in Ballymena as it looks like we're gearing up for a third night, unfortunately, of social unrest. Joining me now is traditional unionist voice for North Antrim, Jim McAllister MP. Jim, thank you very much. Great to have you on the show. Is it right to dismiss all of those people as far-right racists?
No, it's not. The name, by the way, is Alistair, Jim Alistair.
Oh, sorry.
No, it's not. And, of course, it's easy to denigrate people But of course, some of these people are giving those who wish to denigrate them a perfect opportunity to do so by engaging in violence. Violence isn't going to resolve this matter. You know, we have progressed from a hugely peaceful protest of large numbers of people after the sexual assault on the young 14-year-old to the narrative now being changed by this violence to something quite different, and that therefore the focus has been lost. But let's be very clear. There is a wider context to this, and it undoubtedly is migrant-related. Now, that doesn't mean that there's any excuse, any justification for firebombing the homes of anyone, migrant or otherwise. Of course there isn't, and that is not serving any purpose whatsoever.
Jim, sorry to interrupt you. We're just taking live shots now of the police starting to water cannon some of the protesters. Do you agree with the police's tactics so far, what we've seen in the last 3 nights? Have they been too heavy-handed?
I think there's been elements of heavy-handedness, but if and thankfully not tonight, but if you're in a situation where homes are being subject to arson attacks, the police can't stand by. Of course, they have to act in that regard. But I think people who are gathering to make a legitimate peaceful protest should not be water cannoned or battened, rounded, or anything else. They should be entitled to protest. But if it goes beyond that, then, of course, the police have a wider civic duty to protect society. The point I wanted to explain to you is we have a particular and unique Northern Ireland issue with migration. Whereas in GB, it's mostly about those who come in across the channel in the small boats. In Northern Ireland, we have an open border with the Republic, which is a source of free passage of migrants. Now, because the Republic of Ireland is in the EU, every EU citizen, including the Roma who live in Romania and Bulgaria, have free passage on freedom of movement from there to the Republic. The problem then is that the British government refuses to operate any checks on the border when they move from the Republic of Ireland into the United Kingdom into Northern Ireland. And that means, and that is how this Roma issue has mushroomed, that people are coming into the Republic, being bussed up, literally bussed up to Ballymena and other towns, and then settling in. And we don't know, they're undocumented, they're unchecked. We don't know how many of them are illegals, how many of them are criminals. We don't know anything because nobody is carrying out any checks on them. So the government has to do something to resolve this situation. And what it has to do, it has to move to constrain the free flow of migrants from the Republic into Northern Ireland. In other words, we have to exercise control over our own borders.
Yes, I know, but Jim, sorry to cut across you, but that's the perfect point, because that, to me, and I think to the vast majority of human beings, seems like an entirely logical thing. You're asking there for control over your own borders, and you will no doubt educate me, rightly so, on the exact nature of the Northern Irish political situation. However, I can say here on the mainland, as it is, we've all been voting for this for decades. And that's part of the problem, which is that you vote for things, you don't get it, you keep being told that if you want it, then you're a racist, and then something terrible happens, in this case allegedly happens, but something terrible happens, and then they're surprised when you kick off about it.
Yes, and that is a component, an uncomfortable component of this. People have been talked down to for years about migration, about immigration. They have been certainly ignored in their concerns. And the political elite, thinking themselves superior to them, have simply disregarded anything that's been said. That's why I'm saying if government needs to make a move to resolve this situation by beginning to constrain the free flow of immigrants from the Republic of Ireland into Northern Ireland and to assert control over our own borders. And of course, never forget for GB viewers that once they come into Northern Ireland, they are then free to travel into GB, and no doubt many of them do. And that, I suspect, is why we have so many undocumented immigrants across the nation. But all of that is part of the matrix of this, but none of that is a justification for violence.
Jim, this is your constituency, isn't it, that we're looking at now?
It is indeed.
Right.
And,
Look,
I must say...
Yeah, go on.
I must say, I find it very dispiriting to see people destroying their own town. You know, that is self-defeating. That is not serving any purpose. And, you know, one of the upshots of this will be that young men in the main will acquire criminal records which will blight their lives into the future. So it is important that people do not put themselves in harm's way in this regard, but the responsibility is also
I think something appears to be happening, Jim. I'm just going to describe it for our radio listeners. The people were all... You now actually get a scale of exactly how many people were there, because the camera shot that we had before appeared to show people just at the entrance to one road. But clearly what's happened now is they've decided to march from the left to the right, and you are seeing that there must be over 1,000 people that are there. I'm not entirely sure why they've moved. Jim, I mean this in absolute respect, genuinely, because I don't want to be giving the impression that I think you should be putting yourself at harm's way or anything like that. But some people watching or listening to this might be expecting the local MP to be in the middle of that right now, telling people to calm down and go home. Why aren't you?
Well, I'm just literally in from Westminster, where I did raise this issue today. I did raise this issue today on the floor of the House of Commons, but my councillors and the member of the Stormont Assembly for my party was there on Monday night, has been trying to mediate and bring some peace to this situation. But sometimes people get so angry that they don't want to listen to anyone. But the people that need to listen are government. Government needs to listen, and they need to listen towards the end of doing something significant and tangible to constrain the unfettered flow of migrants from the Republic into Northern Ireland and indeed throughout the United Kingdom. You know, we're in this very ironic situation where if you want to import goods from GB, the other part of the United Kingdom, to Northern Ireland, you have to pass through an international customs border, courtesy of the wretched Windsor Framework. But you can have unfettered passage of migrants from the EU into Northern Ireland, and government turns away and just turns and looks the other way. And that's part of the seeds that has led us to this situation.
I appreciate that there were different circumstances behind what we saw in Southport over the summer, and people might draw certain parallels because of civil disobedience and protests. I am concerned, I don't know if you're concerned about this, about what we're seeing here in Northern Ireland, in Ballymena, you know, spreading across the country, with this almost being part of a precedent that's being set now, where people have had enough of social housing being taken, had enough of high taxes, had enough of maybe cultural or demographic change, had enough of crime, an additional level of crime on top of the crime that, of course, we just already have here, which is bad enough, don't get me wrong. And central government should be looking at this and thinking, instead of calling everyone a racist, maybe they need to do something about the problem.
Yes, there's truth in that, and tonight, sadly, we have indications of copycat violence in other parts of Northern Ireland, and rather than subsiding, this matter is spreading, and that is why the government needs to do something positive to demonstrate that it is listening, that it is going to begin to restrain the unfettered flow of migrants, and it can do that very dramatically and very clearly from the south to the north.
Jim, thank you for your time this evening. A pleasure to talk to you. I get the impression we might be speaking again at some point in the next day or two. Hopefully it's to say that it's all calmed down, of course. But it's Jim Allister there, who is the traditional unionist voice for North Antrim. He's the MP for that area. The reason why I cut him off there is because I want to go back now to GB News reporter Dougie Beattie, who is with us now. Dougie, so what happened? We saw a rush of people going down that road behind you earlier.
Yes, the rioters have a big section of them have broken away. They've ran down this road behind us, and they've went in over a wall on a side street, and there is now a house on fire in that street. So, yeah, they've basically got round the back end of the police lines, I think, at this stage, Patrick.
So as far as you're aware...
We're trying to figure out exactly how many of them was.
OK. So you suspect that there's a house on fire at the moment?
Yes, we can see smoke coming up there. So definitely there is, they have targeted some property in there, just in behind the houses on this side of us here. So yes, they definitely have. So they've got into that area that they were trying to get in through the police on this side here, and they have now moved their way down the street and in over the wall on the left-hand side.
Are the police not responding?
So
Are the police moving?
No, the police are staying there, but we've watched TSG Land Rovers leave that position and head down towards that position. So we can only imagine that the TSG that's in the middle of this complex in here are probably moving out towards the outside.
OK. Are you all right to carry on, Doogie?
Yes, go ahead, Paddy. Sorry, you just got to have eyes everywhere at this point.
OK.
Because you imagine you're standing in the middle of a crowd here that's listening to your every word. Yeah.
OK. All right. Well,
it's. I'm trying. If we can just turn around there, you can see there that the water cannon is now opening up on the last of those riders that were facing that line down. But of course, they have just circumnavigated that line and went round the side and up the road. And that's what all those TSG Land Rovers flying past us was about. So they've obviously tried to cut them off up in there. But this type of thing is now going on in the side street beside us. And we can only imagine, we can't see down that side street at this moment in time. We can't move. But we can only imagine the TSG Land Rovers that left here are now forming a similar wall up in there. But they have managed to set a house on fire inside there.
OK, so that's the latest from GBNews, who's on the scene for us in Ballymena, which is that there's a house that's gone up in flames. The police have, it would seem, be relatively ineffective in stopping that. Just finally, Doogie, before we come off you for a minute or two, the police force in Northern Ireland, I think, did they not appeal for reserves from the mainland? Is that going to happen? Are they going to have to call in reinforcements?
Yes, I think that's pretty obvious that is going to happen. The Chief Constable said that he would take that option today in a press conference. So he would call them from the Met, call them from Wales, etc. But that's not uncommon, Patrick. That happens quite a lot. I mean, a lot of the times in London, if you have big protests or whatever, you'll see a lot of officers from Devon and Cornwall, and some from here up in to London. There was a lot of accusations that the police service of Northern Ireland were in Dublin during the riots there, but that cannot be true. It's a different police force, different laws, and they would have, those officers who were in Dublin at that time were from France and Spain. They were not from Northern Ireland because, of course, we are part of the UK. But yes, the police service does this quite often. The only thing they do with Dublin is they do lend them resources. So during the Dublin riots, the water cannon from here was taken down into Dublin to try and quell riots there. So there is sharing of resources, but not of human resources. And so therefore the Chief Constable will call those officers from out and around the UK, because what he's really afraid of is this going to Friday. And if this goes to the weekend, well, then you have a whole weekend of rioting starting throughout Northern Ireland, and that opens all sorts of other options up.
Yeah. OK, right, Doogie, thank you very, very much. And stay safe. We will come back to you. I really do appreciate the job that you're doing, putting yourself at the front line of what's going on there. I think we might try and keep the camera shots up if we can. But we'll give you a second there, Doogie. Let's get you somewhere safe. Right, OK. Well, before I give you tomorrow's newspaper front pages, I think we should probably discuss this, because it's yet another night of rioting in Northern Ireland. From what Doogie said there, they have just set a house on fire. Can you understand the level of public anger, Mark?
Yeah, I mean, you can never condone violence, right? But I think, you know, earlier in Doogie's remarks, he was suggesting, and it seems to be part of this, we can't piece it all together, but if in a democracy you keep voting for things over and over again, you're on the winning side in a democracy and they don't happen, then resentment builds. That obviously doesn't mean you should go and firebomb a house or smash things up or hurt anyone, but resentment will build. And my worry, we still don't know exactly the cause and effect. Often in terms of riots, it's quite difficult to work out the exact cause and effect, and whether rumours spread and the rest of it. But if you live in a democracy and people keep voting for things very clearly and politicians keep failing to deliver them, then resentment builds. And that is unfortunately dangerous, and it ends up with scenes like this.
I worry about what this means for Great Britain and Northern Ireland as a whole, Christian. We're seeing a snapshot here from a place called Ballymena in Northern Ireland. We saw scenes relatively similar in Knowsley in Liverpool after some allegations were levelled out there. We all know what happened in the wake of Southport. Is Britain just kind of like ready to go, do you think?
It certainly feels like this is now what multiculturalism in Britain is. It's a powder keg on both sides waiting to happen, whether it's foreign criminals and terrorists that we're importing, or British people who are sick to death of people behaving, frankly, in a way that it is completely unacceptable whilst living in our country. And again, I repeat all the things. It's violence is wrong, damage to community is wrong, especially targeting random houses that may contain people of foreign nationalities just because they're not Northern Irish.
Yeah.
But this is not a sustainable system, and it is a direct result of mass migration. And we cannot have a country which is constantly on the brink.
Yeah.
It's got to end. And the way it ends is by enacting what people want, which is to lower migration.
You seem genuinely very moved by this.
I'm really angry that Britain has got to this place because of 2 decades' worth of politicians ignoring basic requests.
Boris Johnson opened the floodgates.
Okay. Well,
he did.
He widened the floodgates. Blair opened them.
Go on, Nina. Brexit opened them.
When you see this, Nina, what do you think?
This actually really, really makes me sad. It depresses me. It's awful because you won't remember, and you won't remember, Christine and Mark. You might just remember the Troubles, which we all watched and lived through, and this is so reminiscent of what we would see. And I must just say, without actually being prejudiced against Northern Irish people, but there is a distinct other element in that the Troubles are something that has been ingrained in the population for many, many years, and a population that not only hated migrants, if that's what it is, but they hated people from within their own community. So it was Catholics versus Protestants. So this is a society that until 20 years ago was riven by violence and hatred. And you cannot deny that.
No, that's true, Nina. But going to Christian's powder keg point, I think it would be fair to say that perhaps Northern Ireland is a bit more powder keggy than the rest of Britain.
Yes, absolutely.
I think there's some truth there. It's obviously got a very difficult recent history, indeed not just recent history, going back 100 years, it's had quite a difficult history. But nevertheless, I think Christian's powder keg point is about right. I mean, I kind of feel in my bones, I'm not an expert on the sociological causes of riots, but you kind of... I mean, the worst thing about this is I'm not particularly surprised.
Yeah.
That's the worst thing about it.
But I'm not surprised because it is Northern Ireland, and that's for decades and decades and decades.
I'd be surprised if this was happening on the streets of another British city. That's the problem.
It's mostly youths. It's disaffected youths.
But would you be surprised if this was happening on the streets of a major city in England? I'm not sure I would.
Yes, I would.
I wouldn't.
Obviously, what happened with Southport last year was that the state ramped up the threat to the point that it quelled the riots. But something will happen again. It will have to be a larger issue than a sexual assault. Unfortunately, we've just got used to that. Young women and girls in this country have got used to that. But something will happen again, whether it's a murder, whether it's a terrorist attack, and it'll light up again, and I won't be surprised.
No, I mean, look, it goes without saying, we hope that doesn't happen.
Yeah.
The scenes here and some of what we're seeing is deeply, deeply unpalatable. I think we have to be able to do two things at once, which is fundamentally understand the level of public outrage and anger and dissatisfaction and rage and the sense of betrayal. And I think that's pretty clear that most people do understand that, whilst also simultaneously being able to say, well, the way to go about that with the best will in the world is probably not to burn down your local leisure centre and a home where you think a foreign person might live. So you can be capable of accepting both of those things at once. Just in terms of those latest images, and let's just take a look at them full frame now if we can, I think. So the riot police appear to have moved out from within those vans, come in front of a couple of them. The protesters are lining up in front of them. There's water cannons on the top of a lot of those trucks. There's pellet guns in the hands of some of those police officers. Earlier, or sorry, I should say, there you go, the water cannon's going off now. Further down that street is, according to our Northern Ireland reporter, Doogie Beattie, a house that has been set alight. I thought he raised a really, really good point, which is that today is Wednesday. If they don't get a grip over this by the weekend, and something else happens, whether it's minor or major or even just an internet rumour, something else happens and you've got the full weekend of stuff like this, it's
plus alcohol, a lot of alcohol.
Well, yeah, plus all of it, everything that a weekend brings, and that's going to be very, very, very dangerous for the UK as a whole, I think. But let's just park this there for now, because when I come back, I do want to give you a look at tomorrow's newspaper front pages. We will go straight back if anything escalates in Ballymena or anywhere else. So when I come back, all of tomorrow's newspaper front pages. Stay tuned.
This is Britain's Newsroom, where your voice matters.
It's just astonishing. With expert analysis and honest opinion, we don't just keep you informed.
We bring you unique perspectives you won't see anywhere else.
Can't argue with any of that. When the news happens, it happens here.
On Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 a.m.
Only on GB News.
GB News Breakfast, every day from 6 a.m.
It's been a long old time now. Other missing cases, how do we prioritise that, despite, obviously, Madeleine McCann being one of the most high-profile mysteries of my lifetime, for sure. I think I think you're right to point out, though, that if there is even the remotest of chances that... because sometimes an individual case can symbolise and mean something more in the public consciousness than in isolation. And I think this is such a case. It's something that I think people still deeply care about. So if there's any remote chance, I think they've got to go for it.
Well, let's hope something is found. These searches, as we know, are going to continue until Friday, unless, of course, fresh evidence is found, in which case they will continue.
I take it all sort of quite personally, because we holidayed in the area. I had children the same age at the time, and there used to be posters in the airport, asking, have you seen this girl, and whatever. And my kids were very aware of it, and you'd point out and talk about it and whatever. So I often think it could have been as easily one of my children involved in all of this, and you do take it personally.
And I think a lot of people in the country would feel that way. It's in the nation's psyche, isn't it, Madeleine McCann?
Yeah.
We all know her, we know her face, we feel as though we know her as a little girl. I think everybody would like to have answers as to what happened to her.
Yeah. Right, OK, so the Portuguese police are saying about this, the search warrant was issued by the Public Prosecutor's Office in Germany, which is conducting preliminary proceedings against a German citizen suspected of the murder of a British citizen, Madeleine Beth McCann.
GB News, the People's Channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
We're proud to be GB News, the People's Channel, and as you know, we always love to hear your views. Now, there's a new way of getting in touch with us at gbnews.com/yoursay. By commenting, you can be part of a live conversation and join our GB News community. You can even talk to me, Bev Turner, or any of the members of the GB News family.
Welcome back to Patrick Christys tonight. We're only on GB News. Remember that 11 until midnight, I've got Late Edition, which is an in-depth look at all of tomorrow's newspaper front pages, but also what's inside the papers, and we'll be live in Northern Ireland as a third night of anti-migrant protests kick off. But let's start with tomorrow's front pages now. The Metro, the spend of austerity. So that's what they've gone for. Let's whiz ourselves over to the I newspaper, and they have gone for tax rises now inevitable to pay for Reeves's £2 trillion spending. So the I is now saying that there are inevitable tax rises. Next, we have got the Telegraph, the Daily Telegraph. Reeves hits police and defence to fund the NHS. That's quite an interesting angle that they've gone for there, basically pitting different public services against each other. They've also carried that story of Gibraltar's borders to be policed by Spain in latest surrender deal, and that is a headline that will stab at the stab at the heart like a knife to the heart of a lot of British patriots. Next, we've got The Guardian. The Guardian have gone for Reeves gambles on renewing Britain to interest of voters. They've also gone for a very smiley, happy, look at me doing the economy picture on the front there, whereas a lot of people are thinking you're about to hike my taxes, love. Then we go, finally, to the Daily Mail. We'll knock it on the head after this one. £4 trillion spending review. It's quite interesting. In fact, we won't knock it on the head because we've got the Daily Express still to come. A reckless splurge we and our children will be paying off for years. Yeah. And yes, sorry, the Daily Express, we've got brace for tax pain to pay for Rachel's fantasy spending. Right, not a great set of front pages for the Chancellor there. Mark, it does appear like tax hikes are inevitable.
Well, she's going to try. And look, Nina's often makes the point, and I have some sympathy with it, that they're trying to fix, you know, the country, and the Conservatives didn't get everything right. But I'll tell you what the Tories got wrong. They taxed too much, spent too much and borrowed too much. And the problem is that the new government, the new Labour government, is not moving away from that. It's doubling down on that. Yeah. They're going to tax more, spend more and borrow more. That is now inevitable, and that's pretty much what went wrong for the economy under the Conservatives.
What the Telegraph have done on the right-hand side of their front page there is actually really handy. They've got it at a glance. NHS plus 17.2 billion, up 3%. Police, 0.2 billion, up 1.7%. And I think that's quite good, that, Christian, because I do wonder if a lot of people would rather we spent more money on police than the NHS.
Yeah, the one thing I do find quite peculiar is that, you know, maybe I'd be willing to give her some more kudos, because we all want economic growth, and if you buy into the Keynesian thing of, you know, you spend and you can grow the economy by the government spending, but spaffing money into public services, that's not where you get growth. OK, maybe investment in roads, rail, infrastructure, you can get a bit of growth that way, but just throwing more money into the bottomless pit of the NHS, it's not fixing anyone. But you've got to credit the Daily Mail, because they've gone for £4 trillion, which I think is the highest number any paper's managed to juice out of today's review.
We're going to have a lot to go at in the next hour. These front pages are spicy, but I've also had advanced sight of what the opinion columnists are saying and what's inside the newspapers as well. It's not all about the economy, but there's a lot in there, and there's a lot for us to digest. But yeah, Nina, I mean, the two columnists that are on the front, Andrew Neil goes, as delusional drivel, this was in a class of its own. And then if you look at the Alistair Heath in the Telegraph, this is the Chancellor that lazy, feckless Britain deserves. So, I mean, what do you make of that?
Well, I mean, Andrew Neil's always going to be that. That's so typically Andrew Neil, and I can't understand what this guy, I don't even know, Alistair Heath, what he's saying either. But it seems to me that, you know, you have to put the money up for the NHS. You can't not put the money up for the NHS. We need a healthy population. We are not going to get back to any kind of working strength, productivity growth without a healthy nation. This has to be done. And as long as they reform it at the same time, then that's important. You also have to add money to the defence budget. You can't not do that. So where is the money being wasted?
Well, where would you cut, Nina, to fund those things?
Well, I am not an economist, fortunately, but I would like to see how this pans out before we all jump on her, because the things that as I said, is you pointed out that I said she's trying to put right the things. She's kind of get the schools going.
A lot of these are her own mess, though. She thought that whacking up VAT on private schools would raise £1.5 billion, and it's costing them 650 million quid a year, which a lot of people told them it would do. Increasing national insurance, we lost 270,000 jobs in the last 7 months. They did that. She did that.
That will. I agree. That will even out. I think it will even. I think it will even out. But the thing is, what are the things? What is wrong with spending money on schools?
We don't have the money. We haven't got the money. We're borrowing to pay Paul. It's like me going into John Lewis and going, well, I'm going to have a sofa.
No, you can't do that now. You're allowed to nick it. This is it.
You have to do it.
Yeah, we've been overspending for 25 years now. That's the problem.
Instead of shouting at Rachel Reeves, shout at the last few Tory Prime Ministers, because that's why she's
spending down, tax down and borrowing down.
It's a fair point. OK, right, now, there is a huge amount of news to do. I can't wait for it, OK? There's a boatload full of news I'm going to be sharing with you in just a moment. There's a third night of rioting currently underway in Northern Ireland. I will take you live to Ballymena. We are on the scene. We're going to be giving you all the latest on the tax rises, the latest on Gibraltar. The fallout for this is going to be utterly monumental, and everything inside the book as well. But what's the weather doing?
Even though we'll see a cloudy start, it'll be a bright outlook for the rest of the day. Boxed Solar, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Evening. Welcome to your latest weather update from the Met Office here on GB News. It's been a warm and humid day today. That'll continue tonight and tomorrow, and the humidity sparking some thunderstorms in places too. Down to the southwest, that's where we're looking overnight tonight. Most of us having a dry night. The breeze will be picking up, but down to the southwest, thunderstorms spreading into southwest England, parts of South Wales by morning time. You could get woken up by a rumble of thunder here, if you can sleep, that is, because it will be quite a warm and sticky night in the southwest. Towns and cities holding up in the mid-teens. It's got a warm start to Thursday everywhere. Hazy sunshine for many to begin with across Scotland, northern England, eastern England, but down to the southwest, these thunderstorms dropping a lot of rain in a short space of time. Not great for the morning commute. Could be some hazards on the roads. Those thunderstorms extending into parts of Wales and then through the day into Northern Ireland. So we do have Met Office yellow warnings in place for those thunderstorms. Most of Scotland, though, starting dry and fine, perhaps a little misty along some coast. That breeze will be quite noticeable, getting quite gusty at times across eastern areas and also close to these heavy downpours. Could see some of them developing across southeast England. Heaviest ones likely further west, but then come the afternoon, if skies brighten, we may well spark further thunderstorms over parts of the Midlands. Far southwest of England should get a little bit brighter, whereas it stays pretty wet in Northern Ireland. Quite warm and quite humid. With some sunshine, we could again get temperatures into the mid-20s across parts of eastern England. Many places, they're a little bit cooler than that because of the heavy downpours and because of more cloud. Continued risk of thunderstorms during the course of tomorrow evening. Friday looks a little drier to begin with, but still some showers for Northern Ireland and parts of Wales. The threat of more thunderstorms then coming up from the south later on Friday. There's another Met Office yellow warning for that across East Anglia and the southeast. Friday, probably the warmest of this week. We may get to 30 Celsius in the east.
Even though we'll see a cloudy start, it'll be a bright outlook for the rest of the day. Boxed Solar, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Don't go anywhere, because for the next hour it's Patrick Christys Tonight Late Edition. We're going to be taking you live to Ballymena in Northern Ireland, the third night of anti-migrant protests. But get a load of these front pages. Bad news for Rachel Reeves. Your taxes are going up. David Lammy's given Gibraltar to the Spanish. It looks as though it's about to kick off big time, by the way, in the Middle East. The US have evacuated some of their air bases there. Iran looks set to attack them. I mean, goodness gracious me, where to even begin? Don't you dare move for the next hour.
We're kick-starting summer with your chance to win our biggest cash prize to date, as there's an incredible £54,321 in tax-free cash to be won. What would you spend it on? A brand new car, the holiday of a lifetime, or just sit back, relax and remove some of those day-to-day financial stresses? For a chance to win £54,321 cash, text cash to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message, or text bonus bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus 1 standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB14 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 1st of August. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand.
Welcome back to Britain's Newsroom with Andrew and Beth.
Hello everyone, Patrick Christys here.
I'm Michelle Chu, Britain's News Channel.
Access the stories that matter to you. Take the GB News family with you on any device. And as long as you have an internet connection, tune in to GB News anywhere on the planet or beyond. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's News Channel.
No matter the state it's in, this is our nation. Join me, Jacob Rees-Mogg, for a genuine, honest discussion on where we have been, where we are going, and where we are with the people who set the direction. That's State of the